speaking out. CBS 42's Avery Boyce has the story.
Before Brittany Bolden could ring in the new year, at this home, her life was taken away. She was a daughter, a sister, and a mother of 4.
December 31st, 2024, the last night of the year. In a quiet residential neighborhood on Joyce Lewis Lane in West Tuscaloosa, Alabama, a 34-year-old mother of 4 was on the phone with her best friend, the same way she had been almost every single day for as long as either of them could remember. Calls, texts, FaceTime, back and forth. Nothing about that afternoon felt different. Until it did. Around 4 p.m., her best friend looked at the screen and stopped mid-sentence. Something was off, but not in a bad way. Brittany Bolden looked different. Lighter. There was something sitting behind her eyes that her friend had not seen in months. A quiet kind of peace, almost like relief. Her friend asked her directly, "Why do you look like that?" Brittany smiled. "Just makeup," she said. "That's all." Her friend believed her. At approximately 8:30 p.m. that same evening, Tuscaloosa police were dispatched to the 3400 block of Joyce Lewis Lane, following reports of a shooting at a residential address. When officers arrived, they found Brittany inside the home. She was a nursing student, a daughter, a sister, the kind of mother who worked multiple jobs without complaining because her 4 children never went without. She was 34 years old, and she had been shot dead inside the home she paid for. That glow her best friend saw at 4 p.m. had nothing to do with makeup. Brittany Bolden had made her decision. She was leaving him. He found out. Where in the world are you watching this from? Drop it in the comments below. Every single comment helps this story reach someone who may need to hear it. Before Joyce Lewis Lane, before any of this, there was a girl from Star Hill, Alabama. Not the kind of place that makes headlines. A small, quiet community where people know each other's names, where front porches still mean something, and where church on Sunday was not optional. It was where you learned who you were and what you owed the people around you. Brittany Bolden grew up carrying all of that. She brought it with her when she relocated to Tuscaloosa, and she poured every bit of it into raising 4 children on her own. A 17-year-old, a 13-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old son, and a baby girl who had just turned 5. 4 kids, multiple jobs, and somewhere in between all of that, night classes at Shelton State Community College in Tuscaloosa, working toward a nursing degree 1 semester at a time. She was not waiting for life to slow down before she started living it. Her mother, Cassandra Campbell, and her sister, Lauren Campbell, watched her do all of this without complaint. Friends described her as the kind of woman who walked into a room and made it feel steadier, dependable, warm. Someone who gave more than she took, every single time. She had a plan for her life, a real one. And by the end of 2023, she thought she had finally found the last piece of it. She was wrong. Summer of 2023, Brittany Bolden met Lovelle Rodgers. He was 34, same age as her. A Tuscaloosa man who worked as a long-haul truck driver, gone for long stretches, then back again. He had 2 daughters of his own, a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, which meant if this went anywhere serious, 6 children would be living under one roof. That was not a small thing. But Rodgers did not flinch at it. He walked into Brittany's world on Joyce Lewis Lane and acted like a man who had been looking for exactly this. He sent flowers. He showed up consistently. He gave her the kind of focused attention that a woman carrying 4 children, multiple jobs, and a college course load does not receive often enough. He did not just court her. He made himself useful. And Brittany noticed. She opened her home to him, introduced him to her children, posted about him publicly without hesitation, called him her bonus dad, and meant it. What her closest circle quietly noted was something she may not have fully registered in those early months. When Lovelle Rodgers came into her life, he had no car. According to people close to the situation, he was allegedly facing homelessness. She gave him a roof. She gave him a family. She gave him a place at the table she had built entirely by herself, and he gave her flowers. For a while, that felt like enough. The warning signs were already there. Nobody saw them. For most of 2024, Brittany Bolden's social media looked like proof that patience pays off. She posted about Lovelle Rodgers, the way people only post when they genuinely believe something is real. Not for appearances, not for validation, but because the happiness feels too big to keep private. She shared their holidays together, a trip to Miami, photos of sunshine, laughter, a blended family that looked like it had always belonged together. She celebrated his birthday with a public tribute that left nothing unsaid. Then came July 30th, 2024, their one-year anniversary. She wrote about him with the kind of specificity that only comes from someone paying close attention to the person they love. Not just that he was a good man, but how he showed it. That he cooked, that he noticed when she was running on empty and stepped in before she had to ask, that he engaged with her children without being prompted, that he gave her room to breathe when she needed it most. She called him amazing, extraordinary, hers. Reading those posts now is uncomfortable. Not because they were lies, but because they were true when she wrote them. That was the real Brittany Bolden on that screen. A woman who felt, for the first time in a long time, genuinely seen. But somewhere between that anniversary post in July and the final weeks of December, something shifted inside that house on Joyce Lewis Lane. Nobody was posting about it, and that silence said everything. The version of Lovelle Rodgers that Brittany posted about, and the version living inside that house on Joyce Lewis Lane were not the same man. People close to Brittany say the shift happened gradually. Not a single blowout, not one moment that drew a clear line. It started with control. Small, quiet, easy to dismiss. Then came the possessiveness. Then the jealousy that had nothing to do with love and everything to do with ownership. Each layer arrived on top of the last, until the man who had once sent flowers was now monitoring her movements, challenging her choices, and making her feel like a guest in her own home. According to those same people, Rodgers was directing a weight onto Brittany that he was not dealing with himself, and rather than stepping away from it, he pushed it toward her. Then there is this. Tuscaloosa police had been called to the Joyce Lewis Lane address multiple times, not once. Multiple times. There was a paper trail, a documented history of incidents at that address long before December 31st ever arrived. Captain Marty Sellers of the Tuscaloosa Violent Crimes Unit later confirmed publicly that Rodgers and Bolden had a history of domestic violence issues. This did not come out of nowhere. Brittany's mother, Cassandra Campbell, later spoke openly about what her daughter had been living through, confirming there were signs of physical harm inside that relationship.
Don't think Brittany thought that it would go that far. You see what I'm saying?
And yet Brittany stayed. Not because she lacked the strength to leave, but because hope does not let go easily. The hope that the man from the summer of 2023 was still reachable, still worth waiting for. Her best friend would later share something that stops you cold. Brittany had looked her in the eye and said it plainly. If she did not get out, something bad was going to happen to her. She already knew what he was capable of. At some point, between the hope and the fear, Brittany made a decision. She was leaving, but she was not going to announce it. She was not going to argue her way out or make a scene. She had watched this man long enough to understand exactly how he handled losing control of a situation. So she did what a woman who has finally accepted the truth about her circumstances does. She got quiet. She got smart. And she started planning. She told only 2 people, her mother, Cassandra Campbell, and her best friend. The circle was tight by design. Rodgers could not know. Not yet. Not until she was already gone. On December 30th, 2024, the day before New Year's Eve, Rodgers made 2 posts on social media that would turn out to be his last of the year. The first, a better version of myself is not a resolution for the New Year's. It's a requirement for me. Hours later, a second post. Nobody sees my pain, but everyone sees my mistakes. 2 posts. 2 windows into a man who was unraveling, and not reaching for help. The next morning, New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2024, Brittany and Cassandra drove quietly across Tuscaloosa together, viewing rental properties, walking through front doors that Brittany was already imagining opening with her own keys, on her own terms, with her 4 children behind her. She was so close to it. She came back to Joyce Lewis Lane that afternoon. He was there. All 6 children were in the house. That evening, Brittany told him the truth. She had been looking for somewhere new to live. She was done. She was moving on. He had one more night of freedom left. He used it to take hers permanently. The first call came in around 8:30 p.m. Tuscaloosa police were dispatched to the 3400 block of Joyce Lewis Lane in West Tuscaloosa, following reports of a shooting at a residential address. When officers arrived, they found Brittany Bolden inside the home. And she was gone. The initial information passed to responding officers pointed in a single direction, that the gunshot wound may have been self-inflicted. It was the kind of detail that, if left unchallenged, would have buried the truth before anyone had a chance to find it. But the Tuscaloosa Violent Crimes Unit was called in. Co-commanded by Captain Marty Sellers, the unit assumed full control of the scene. They examined the physical evidence. They studied the layout of the home. They looked at the circumstances not as they had been described, but as they actually were. And then they spoke with the witnesses. Among those witnesses were the children who had been inside that house. What those children said dismantled the self-inflicted narrative completely. Their accounts were steady. They were consistent, and they pointed in one direction only. The case shifted from a suspicious death to a homicide within hours. The self-inflicted story had not survived contact with the truth those children carried out of that house. Lovelle Rodgers, 34, of Tuscaloosa, was taken into custody and transported to the Tuscaloosa County Jail. The charge filed against him was capital murder, elevated to that specific level because those children were present and witnessed what he did. They were the reason the full truth came out, and they were the reason he would face the full weight of Alabama law. Capital murder. 2 words that carry a specific and deliberate weight in the state of Alabama. Not murder, not manslaughter, not a charge that leaves room for negotiation or middle ground. Capital murder. The highest criminal charge the state of Alabama can bring against a person, and the only 2 outcomes it allows, if proven beyond reasonable doubt, are the death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole. There was no third option. Lovelle Rodgers was booked into the Tuscaloosa County Jail and held without bond, meaning no hearing, no release, and no return to the outside world while the legal process moves forward. Before that charge could be fully understood, one piece of context mattered enormously. Captain Marty Sellers, co-commander of the Tuscaloosa Violent Crimes Unit, confirmed publicly that Rodgers and Brittany Bolden had a documented history of domestic violence issues that predated December 31st by a significant margin. The capital murder charge was not a reaction to a single night. It was the legal conclusion of a pattern that had been visible long before that evening on Joyce Lewis Lane. As of the most recent available reporting, Lovelle Rodgers remains inside the Tuscaloosa County Jail. No bond. No trial date publicly confirmed. No freedom. The legal process will run its course in a Tuscaloosa courtroom, on a timeline that only the courts control. Brittany Bolden cannot say the same. When the news spread, it did not spread quietly. It moved the way devastating things move through close communities, fast, and with a weight that settles into people before they have even fully processed what they are hearing. Brittany's best friend was among the first to speak publicly. She wrote directly to Lovelle Rodgers by name, told him exactly what he had taken: a mother, a daughter, a sister, and a best friend she had spoken to every single day, without exception, for as long as either of them could remember. She wrote about a friendship so consistent and so daily that she did not yet know what an ordinary morning would feel like without it. She told him he had done what he did in front of a child who deserved none of what she witnessed that night. Lauren Campbell, Brittany's sister, spoke about the moment she understood what had happened to her family. She said she never expected it to be them, never expected to be standing where she was standing, saying what she was now being forced to say out loud. Then there was Cassandra Campbell, in the middle of her own grief, still raw, still fresh, still without a shape she could hold. Brittany's mother turned outward. She spoke directly to every woman watching who recognized something of her daughter's story in their own life. She said she hoped Brittany's story could reach someone in time, that the situation was not going to change on its own, that waiting for a person to become who you need them to be is a gamble that can cost a woman everything. The family also shared something that added another layer of hardship to an already unbearable situation. Brittany had no life insurance. A GoFundMe was launched to cover burial costs with a goal of $7,000. The Tuscaloosa community responded, raising over $3,000 within days. On January 11th, 2025, Brittany Bolden was laid to rest in Tuscaloosa. Church members, classmates from Shelton State, co-workers, friends. The room was full of people whose lives she had quietly made better just by being in them. 4 children sat in that service without their mother, the woman who had once posted about wanting a man who brings flowers. Her family had spent the days before picking them out for her casket. Brittany Bolden did everything right. She planned privately. She kept her circle small. She moved carefully and deliberately toward a life that was fully hers. She was one address change away from her fresh start. It was not enough. And that is the part that does not get said enough. Leaving is not the safe part. For women in situations like hers, the moment they say it out loud, the moment the person controlling them understands that the grip is gone, that is when the danger reaches its highest point. Not before. Not during the arguments. Not during the incidents that end up in a police report. At the point of leaving. Brittany was 34 years old, a mother of 4 children who needed her. One semester from a nursing career, she had been building through exhaustion and sheer determination, through early mornings and late nights that would have stopped most people before they even started. She was already walking toward the door. Lovelle Rodgers sits in the Tuscaloosa County Jail, held without bond, facing a capital murder charge with no comfortable outcome waiting for him on the other side. But accountability in a courtroom does not return a mother to 4 children. It does not finish her degree. It does not answer her phone when her best friend calls on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Somewhere out there right now, a woman is in the middle of her own exit plan. Share this story, not for numbers, because she needs to know that the people around her are paying attention. If you or someone you know needs support, contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233, or text START to 88788. It is free, it is confidential, and it is available around the clock.